The cries of women in labor echoed faintly down the hallway of St. Bridget's Specialist Hospital, but one cry was missing. That of Adiz, a 42-year-old woman in a private delivery room, clutching her husband's hand, drenched in sweat and pain. Her grip was tight, trembling, and desperate. Beside her, Uche, her husband of nearly 13 years, whispered words of encouragement through tears. His voice cracked as he stroked her hair gently. "Just a little more, my love. Please hold on. You're almost there." But the midwives already knew something was wrong. The pushing had gone on for hours, yet the baby hadn't come down. Adiz was exhausted, her legs numb, her eyes rolling back slightly. "We need to prep for emergency cesarean section," the head doctor finally said, her voice serious but calm. "The baby is too big. The pelvis can't carry this one out naturally." Uche's heart stopped for a moment. He turned to Adiz, who, despite the haze of pain, nodded weakly. She had dreamt of this day, but never imagined it would come with so much struggle. The journey to this moment. Adiz and Uche had married in 2012, full of dreams and laughter, confident that children would come in their first year. But a year passed, then 2, then 5, and still nothing. They had visited different hospitals, tried herbal remedies, changed diets, fasted, and prayed. People whispered. Some relatives mocked in silence. Friends stopped asking. There were nights Adiz cried quietly in the bathroom while Uche pretended to snore in bed. But he was awake, crying too. They had tried IVF twice. The first failed. The second miraculously worked after nearly 10 years of waiting. So now, lying on that cold hospital bed, Adiz wasn't just fighting for a baby. She was fighting for hope fulfilled. The delivery room. Inside the operating theater, the medical team moved swiftly. Uche wasn't allowed in, so he paced the hospital corridor like a lion in a cage. 30 minutes later, the cry came, a loud, deep cry, then another, then silence. Uche froze. A nurse appeared at the door. "She's fine, the baby is here. A healthy baby girl." He burst into tears immediately, dropping to his knees. "Thank you, Jesus. Thank you." But it was when they weighed the baby that the shock truly settled. 5.3 kilograms. Gasps filled the room. Nurses exchanged surprised glances. One joked, "This one is ready for primary school already." Recovery and reflection. Adiz woke up groggy but alive, and when they placed the baby beside her, tears rolled freely down her cheeks. "She's big," she whispered, weak but proud. "She's perfect," Uche said, holding both her hand and the baby's hand at the same time. They named her Chibwakimera. The news of her delivery spread like wildfire. Old friends began calling, some crying on the phone, some asking for baby pictures. The once quiet woman, always sitting at the back in women's meetings at church, now became the center of testimony. Women who had given up hope began to believe again. People she didn't even know came to her house with gifts just to see the giant miracle baby. Adiz and Uche made a quiet vow in their hearts. This child will never lack anything good in life. From the very first day they brought her home, Kiki was treated like royalty. Adiz, who had once spent sleepless nights wondering if she would ever carry a child of her own, now woke up smiling just to breastfeed her precious daughter. Even when Kiki would cry in the middle of the night, which was often, Adiz would carry her with joy, kiss her chubby cheeks and say, "My fat mama, what do you want again?" Uche was even worse, or better depending on who was watching. Anytime Kiki sneezed, coughed, or even made a funny face, Uche would run around like a fire had started. "She needs warm water. She needs her blanket. Call the doctor." Adiz would laugh and tease him. "You're the one acting like you gave birth to her." But deep down, she loved how involved he was. The years of waiting had made them both overprotective and very generous. 1 month later, baby Chibwakimera was doing well. He barely cried, but his appetite was no joke. He could finish 2 baby bottles before most newborns blinked. Uche would carry him proudly and say, "This one took all the years we waited and added it to his weight." Adiz, though still healing from the CS, glowed with new joy. Each time she breastfed, she whispered silent prayers of gratitude. One day, as she held her daughter against her chest, she looked at Uche and said, "Do you remember when people said we should adopt?" "I remember," he said, smiling. "They told us to give up. But we didn't." Uche finished her sentence. Adiz kissed the baby's forehead and said softly, This right here, was worth every tear, every delay, every pain. A baby with her own menu. Kiki never lacked food, never. Once she crossed the 6-month mark, the kitchen became her kingdom. Adiz prepared fresh pap with milk and mashed fruits daily. If she turned her face from the pap, Uche would rush out to buy baby cereal, yogurt, or even freshly pounded yam and okra soup. Anything to please her growing appetite. "I don't want my princess to ever go hungry," he would say, placing a bottle of warm milk in her tiny hands. At barely 9 months old, Kiki's cheeks were fuller than most toddlers. Her arms had cute folds and her legs were like soft, round yam tubers. Everywhere they went, people exclaimed, "Ah, this baby is eating money-o." Adiz would smile proudly and reply, "Yes, she is our retirement benefit. Too much love to share." Kiki had so many clothes that she barely wore some before outgrowing them. Her wardrobe looked like a mini baby boutique. Rows of dresses, shoes, bonnets, bibs, and more. Her stroller alone had 2 versions, one for church and another for casual strolls in the estate. Uche even bought a tiny baby sofa so she wouldn't always lie flat. He sat her there every afternoon, feeding her bits of mashed banana while singing made-up songs. Musical note, Kiki baby, Daddy loves you more than gold. Musical note, their joy knew no bounds, a blessing that kept growing. Everywhere they went, people took pictures of her or touched her cheeks. Some even offered to borrow her for a day, joking that she looked like a mini celebrity. Their neighbors would say, "This girl is already eating the food of a 5-year-old." And Adiz, now filled with joy and confidence, would smile and respond, "She's eating on behalf of all the years I waited." By the time Kiki turned 6, she was the brightest star in her parents' sky. Still as chubby and cheerful as ever, she had grown into a beautiful little girl with round cheeks, warm eyes, and a loud, infectious laugh. At home, she was still the princess, the one who could do no wrong in Uche and Adiz's eyes. But the world outside their front door wasn't as kind. Kiki had just started primary too, and for the first time, she began to notice that not everyone saw her as cute. In fact, some kids didn't even like her. They laughed when she ran, mocked her when she struggled to fit into the classroom desk, and whispered loudly when she passed by. First, she tried to ignore it. She would come home and pretend like nothing happened. But slowly, the weight of the words began to press on her heart. One Friday afternoon, Adiz was in the kitchen preparing yam porridge, Kiki's favorite, when she heard the front door slam. Kiki had returned from school earlier than usual. Instead of running in to greet her with excitement, Kiki walked straight to her room and shut the door. Adiz frowned. Something was wrong. She followed quietly, knocked once, then opened the door gently. She found Kiki sitting on the floor, her uniform still on, her lunch bag unopened, and tears rolling silently down her cheeks. "Mama, I don't want to be fat anymore." Adiz's heart broke instantly. She dropped to her knees and pulled Kiki close. "Who said that to you?" Kiki sniffed. "They laughed at me in class today. When the teacher asked us to run around the field, some of the boys started shouting, 'Roller, roller,' and one girl said I looked like a bouncing balloon." Her lips quivered. "They say I eat too much, that I'm big and slow, that I don't belong with them." Adiz sat there, her eyes stinging with tears. This was the same child they had prayed for, the same child they had protected and pampered. And now the world was showing its claws. A mother's comfort. That night, when Uche came home, Adiz told him everything. He went straight to Kiki's room and sat beside her. He held her tiny hand and said, "Kiki, you are beautiful. You are special. You were born strong. Do you know how many years your mummy and I prayed to have you? You're not just our daughter. You are our miracle. Those children don't understand that." Kiki looked up. But why am I so fat? Uche smiled softly. Because God made you in a special way. You have a big heart, big smile, big dreams. And yes, a big body. And there's nothing wrong with that. Adiz joined them and added, but if you want us to help you become stronger and healthier, we will. Not because of bullies, but because you want to feel good about yourself. Okay? Kiki nodded slowly. It was the first time she smiled that day. The very next day, after Kiki bravely stood up for herself, the bullying didn't stop. It got worse. At school, the group of boys who had teased her before seemed more emboldened, whispering insults behind her, making animal sounds as she walked past, laughing loudly whenever she joined class activities. One boy even dropped a note on her desk that read, "You're too big to fit in with us." That broke her. When Adiz went to pick her up from school, she saw her daughter standing alone by the gate, her eyes puffy and red, her lunchbox still full. Kiki didn't say a word when she got into the car. As they drove home in silence, Adiz's grip on the steering wheel tightened, a quiet storm of pain and helplessness brewing in her chest. When they got home, Kiki broke down. "I don't want to go back there again, Mummy. Ever again. Even the teachers just look at me like I'm lazy. They don't say anything when the kids laugh at me. Why do I even have to go to school?" Adiz pulled her close, holding her the way only a mother who once cried for a child could. Uche listened quietly that night. After a long pause, he looked at his wife and said, "We need to get her out of there. Now." By the end of the week, Kiki had been transferred to a new school, one that had better counseling support and a more inclusive learning environment. Uche pulled some strings and paid more than they could comfortably afford, just to make sure their daughter would feel safe. But even at the new school, the name-calling followed. Kids still whispered and giggled. "Fatty. Orobo. She looks like she ate 10 people." And this time, the teachers weren't openly rude, but they were dismissive. They ignored her during PE, gave her side glances when she asked for a second portion of lunch. A heavy appetite. Kiki didn't help herself, and her parents knew it. Despite their best efforts, she still loved to eat, and she ate a lot. Her portion sizes at home were reduced gently, but in school, she'd find ways to trade her snacks or sneak in extra treats. Her stomach was used to the comfort of fullness, the warmth of food that came with every bite. Food wasn't just a habit, it had become a coping mechanism. She ate when she was sad. She ate when she was bored. She ate when she felt invisible. Adiz tried to talk to her gently. "Kiki, you know we love you, right? And that love means helping you be healthy, inside and outside." "But I'm always hungry, Mummy," Kiki would say quietly, "even when I try not to be." The tough talk. One Saturday evening, Uche sat down with her after dinner. "Princess," he said softly, "do you know what happens to people who eat too much for too long?" Kiki shrugged. "They get tired easily. They fall sick more often. Their hearts work too hard, and one day they could stop. I want you to grow up and see your dreams, to do everything you want. But to do that, we have to work on this together." For the first time, Kiki didn't cry. She just nodded slowly and whispered, "I want to be strong, Daddy, but I don't know how." Kiki was just 8, but her heart was already tired. Not from running or jumping, because she didn't do much of that, but from carrying something far heavier, shame. At home, things had quietly changed. Adiz, in her desperation, started looking for faster ways to help her daughter lose weight. The therapy sessions were slow, the food plans weren't giving instant results, and Kiki still reached for extra snacks when no one was looking. Then one evening, while scrolling through her phone, Adiz saw an advert. New slim tea for children. Safe, organic, guaranteed to reduce belly fat in 2 weeks. Without thinking twice, she ordered it. Tea before breakfast. The slim tea arrived in a green packet with smiling cartoon fruit on the label. The instructions said to mix half a spoon in warm water once a day. The next morning, she stirred a cup for Kiki. "What's this, Mummy?" Kiki asked, frowning. "It's just tea, my love," Adiz lied softly. "It'll help you feel better. Drink it before your cereal." And so it became routine. Every morning before school, Kiki drank the bitter tea, but nothing changed. She still ate her normal meals because Adiz didn't stop giving her the portions she was used to. She was still always hungry. And she still cried when the mirror reminded her of all the names the world had thrown at her. One Saturday morning, Uche walked into the living room and said, "Kiki, come, let's go for a walk. Just small walk around the estate. Let's sweat small." But before Kiki could reply, Adiz snapped from the kitchen, "She's too small for that kind of stress. You want to wear her out." Uche turned to her. "Ada, she's 8. Not 2. She needs to move her body, not just drink tea. Can't you see the tea isn't working?" Adiz wiped her hands on her wrapper, frustrated. "So what do you want me to do, Uche? Starve her? I'm doing my best here." But deep down, she knew the tea was just her way of trying to fix things without facing the truth. That Kiki needed more than products. She needed patience, structure, and emotional support. The mirror again. Kiki stood in front of the mirror that evening, her school uniform tight around her stomach. She could hear her parents arguing softly in the living room. She turned sideways, sucked in her belly, then gave up. She sat on her bed and whispered to herself, "Why am I like this?" Her self-esteem was already crumbling. She didn't like going to birthday parties anymore. She didn't like answering questions in class because people stared. She didn't even like taking pictures when the teacher told them to pose for group shots. Her world was shrinking. One day she finally said it. That night, as Adiz helped her change into her pajamas, Kiki whispered, "Mummy, am I the reason you and Daddy fight?" Adiz froze. "No, no, baby. Why would you say that?" "Because I'm not getting slim, and you're always trying to make me, but it's not working." And then, for the first time in a long time, Adiz broke down. He held her daughter tightly and cried, not because of Kiki's body, but because of how she had unintentionally hurt her with pressure disguised as love. "I'm sorry, Kiki," she said over and over. "You're not the problem. You're my heart. And I've been doing this the wrong way." By the time Kiki was in SS1, she had become a master at blending into the background. She had learned to shrink herself, not physically but emotionally. She avoided attention, hated standing in front of the class, and dreaded school events. Her uniform was always a little looser than necessary, her shoulders always hunched, and her eyes rarely met anyone's directly. It wasn't because she was rude. She was just tired of being noticed for the wrong things. Alone in a crowd, Kiki dreaded walking through the school compound alone. She knew what would happen. A group of boys sitting on the stairs would pause, whisper, then laugh. Someone would say, "Make way, here comes Trailer." Or sometimes just mimic the sound of an earthquake when she walked past. First, she used to cry. Then she learned to pretend not to hear, but the damage had already been done. Each laugh, each word, each stare became bricks in a wall around her heart. Kiki's classmates were growing into themselves. The girls were getting confident, their waistlines slimmer, their hair neatly done, their smiles filled with the belief that they were worthy of attention. And attention came. By SS2, Ada, Chica, even small Kamsi had boys who liked them. Some were secretly dating. There were lunch breaks filled with giggles and whispered crushes. Kiki? She was everyone's buddy, class rep, or helper when homework needed solving. No boy ever gave her a letter. No one ever called her fine girl or waited behind to walk with her. She watched from the sidelines, acting like she didn't care. But inside, it stung. Her reflection was her enemy. At night, Kiki would stare at the mirror after her bath. Her arms felt too big, her face too round. Her thighs refused to shrink. She tried standing on the scale secretly, and when the numbers climbed, she climbed into silence. Sometimes, she'd drink only water all day, just to see if it made a difference. Other times, the hunger would drive her to binge at night, and the shame would follow like a shadow. "Will I ever be good enough?" she once asked herself aloud. But the room gave no answer. The distance at home. Her parents loved her, but they didn't know how deep the scars had become. Uche thought avoiding the topic was protecting her. Adiz still handed her special teas from time to time, hoping something would change. But nobody sat her down to just ask how she felt. Nobody taught her that beauty comes in different sizes. Nobody held her hand and said, "You're enough. You've always been enough." So she built her self-worth out of silence and wrapped herself in invisibility, hoping the world wouldn't look too closely. Finishing secondary school wasn't easy for Kiki. By SS3, the taunts had reduced, not because people had changed, but because most students had become busy preparing for WAEC, NICO, and university entrance exams. Still, Kiki intentionally skipped school on certain days, especially when there was a school assembly or social activity. She faked stomach aches. She hid behind headaches and mood swings. But the truth was, she couldn't handle being looked at. It was easier to stay home and disappear than to walk the halls where laughter followed her like an unwanted shadow. She sat for WEC and jam quietly, while her classmates gathered in groups to take last day selfies and write things like, "Never forget me," in each other's notebooks. Kiki just wanted to forget that part of her life ever happened. Stepping into the world. University begins. When she got her admission letter into a federal university, her parents were overjoyed. Especially Adiz. She cried. "My only child. A university student," she said, holding Kiki like she was a trophy. Uche bought her a new bag, some fresh clothes, and proudly drove her to campus. But Kiki didn't feel victorious. She felt like she was about to start another battle. A new space, same insecurities. The campus was big, loud, and filled with people who seemed to already know who they were. Girls in crop tops and high heels. Boys in tight-fitted jeans and confidence. Groups taking pictures on their first day. Kiki wore a big shirt and plain jeans, carrying a crossbody bag and trying not to make eye contact. Her roommate, Amarachi, was slim, outspoken, and already had 400 followers on her new school Instagram page by day 3. "Babe, you don't talk much, oh," Amarachi said once while applying lip gloss. Kiki smiled. "I'm just getting used to things." She wasn't. She was scared. Eating became her comfort. Again, loneliness crept in. Between classes and hiding in the library, food became her only friend again. She would order extra portions of jollof rice in the evening, or sneak puff-puff from the roadside woman near her hostel, always saying, "It's for my roommate too." She would eat while watching movies, then hide the wrappers before Amarachi returned. Nobody asked. Nobody noticed. But her pain stayed. The quiet nights. One night, while scrolling through her phone under the covers, she saw an old picture of her and her classmates from secondary school. Everyone was smiling except her. That night, she wept again, not because of the weight, not because of the insults, but because she had never known who she really was outside people's opinions. But change was coming, quietly. What Kiki didn't know was that something was slowly shifting inside her. She was now in a new world, one where she could choose her circle, where nobody knew her from childhood, where maybe, just maybe, she could start again. It would still be a long road, there would still be tears. But also, soon, there would be someone who sees her differently. Classmate, a lecturer, or maybe just a club she joins that pulls her out of her shell. And when that moment comes, for the first time, Kiki won't run. She'll look up, take a shaky breath, and say something back. It started with a small laugh. Kiki was lying on her bunk one afternoon, eating chin-chin and scrolling through her phone, when her roommate, Amarachi, said something silly. Kiki couldn't hold it in. She laughed out loud. For the first time in years, it wasn't a shy or nervous giggle. It was genuine. From that moment, their friendship grew. Amarachi introduced Kiki to her close friend, Fola, a final-year law student, slim, calm, and very stylish. The three of them quickly became inseparable, even though Kiki always felt like the odd one out whenever they went out. At restaurants, she noticed how Amarachi and Fola barely touched their meals while she cleared her plate. At parties, they wore body-hugging dresses while she wore oversized clothes to hide her arms and belly. Still, it felt good to belong somewhere. Even if her confidence was still low, she had people who saw her, laughed with her, and cared. The desperation creeps in. But friendship didn't erase years of shame overnight. One evening after coming back from a class hangout, Kiki broke down in front of Amarachi. "I'm tired, Amara," she whispered. "Everywhere we go, I feel like a shadow. I'm tired of being the fat friend. I want to lose this weight. I have to." Amarachi knelt beside her and held her hands. "Then let's do it the right way. The gym life begins." The next week, Amarachi took her to a gym not far from campus. The place smelled of sweat and effort. People were running, lifting, jumping, moving with purpose. Kiki stood there, nervous. She felt out of place. Until Coach Talu, a female fitness instructor, walked up to her and smiled. "You're here. That's already a win." Those words were a spark. The first day she entered the gym, all eyes turned to her. She could feel them judging, scanning. Her heart beat faster, not from the treadmill, but from shame. She was the biggest girl in the room, and she knew it. Each time she walked past a mirror, it reminded her. She hated mirrors. She didn't want to greet anyone, didn't want to smile. She just wanted to lose weight, fast, and disappear into normal. But the gym wasn't as magical as she hoped. The pain was too much. The first few days were brutal. Squats made her legs tremble. Skipping made her feel dizzy. Jogging on the treadmill? A nightmare. Even stretching hurt. She would go back to her room, collapse on the bed, and cry silently. Her muscles were always sore. Her ankles ached. She was tired. And worse, the stares never stopped. Some people whispered, others laughed. She once heard a guy say, "She is trying, but it will take her years." She smiled like she didn't hear it, but she went home and broke down. Dieting was another battle. Alongside the workouts, Kiki tried dieting. She started eating salads. She drank only water. But every night her stomach would scream. And the worst part? Her friends could eat anything. Amarachi would eat noodles at midnight. Fola would buy meat pie after lectures. But Kiki? She was stuck with cucumber and boiled egg. The cravings made her angry. She would dream of cake. She would daydream of jollof rice and cold Fanta. By the end of the first week, she was exhausted. The break that became a stop. "I just want to rest for 2 days," she said on a Sunday. She skipped the gym Monday. Then Tuesday, by Wednesday, she had ordered pizza and ice cream to treat herself. The workout stopped, the diet collapsed. And by the following week, everything she had lost came back. Plus more. Her face looked puffier. Her thighs felt tighter. Her jeans didn't close as easily again. The mirror became the enemy once more. The guilt was heavy. She didn't tell Amarachi or Fola. She pretended she was still watching her weight. But deep down, Kiki was angry with herself. "How can I be this weak? Why can't I just be normal? I'll never be like other girls." She started skipping lectures again. She wore baggy clothes again. And when boys passed and stared at her friends, Kiki would look away, pretending not to care. But she did care deeply. Kiki's roommate, Amarachi, had watched her struggle for weeks. She saw Kiki try, then quit. Try again, then give up. The truth was clear. Kiki was lazy, and weight loss was not going to come through gentle means. There's no shortcut to losing fat, Amarachi thought. But maybe, just maybe, I can trick her body first, then her heart. The tea that changed everything. One weekend, Amarachi came back to the room with a strange-looking brown packet labeled in Chinese letters. "What's this?" Kiki asked. "Tea. Special herbal tea." Amarachi smiled. Kiki loved tea. It was one of the few things she consumed regularly and without guilt. So, without asking too much, she brewed a cup and drank. 30 minutes later, the effects began. Her stomach started bubbling. Then came the gas, uncontrollable. Then, an unusual energy surged through her. She couldn't sit still. She was fidgeting, moving, talking fast. "What's in that tea?" she asked. Amarachi laughed. "It gives you energy and burns calories. But if you don't move around, it won't stop." "What do you mean?" Kiki asked. "I mean, if you sit here, you'll fart all day. But if you walk around, it will calm down." Kiki groaned. "You tricked me." "No," Amarachi smiled. "I helped you." The handsome stranger. Amarachi knew one more thing. Kiki secretly wanted a boyfriend. She'd heard Kiki talk about love in whispers. She caught her staring at cute couples on campus. But no guy had ever approached her. So Amarachi decided to use that, too. She spoke with Tachukwu the previous day, the most handsome boy in their department. Tall, clean-shaven, popular, and charming. He was kind-hearted too and agreed to help. Just talk to her, Amarachi begged. Make her feel beautiful. Help her build confidence. Tachukwu agreed. So after Kiki drank her herbal tea and started becoming restless, Amarachi said, "Let's take a walk to the library. I need to pick something." Kiki groaned. "Library? It's far. But you're already up, and moving will help the gas," Amarachi teased. Kiki laughed in embarrassment, grabbed her slippers and followed. The 30-minute walk was full of grumbles. But they made it, and right at the library entrance stood Tachukwu, dressed in a crisp black tee and jeans, holding a novel in his hand. Amarachi smiled and said, "Tachukwu, meet my roommate, Kiki." Tachukwu smiled at Kiki warmly. "Hi, I've been wanting to meet you." Kiki froze. Her heart skipped. Amarachi whispered, "I'll leave you too," and walked away, pretending to scroll her phone. The start of something new. Tachukwu was smooth. He complimented Kiki's smile, told her he'd noticed her in class. He said she looked like someone with a deep mind. Kiki glowed. She didn't even remember she had been restless moments ago. She didn't even realize she had walked 30 minutes to get there. For the first time in a long time, someone outside her family and Amarachi had called her beautiful, even if it was part of a plan. That night, Kiki went to bed smiling. The next day, Kiki was floating on air. From the moment she opened her eyes, it was as if something inside her had shifted. She was giggling, humming songs she hadn't sung in years, and checking her mirror more than usual. Amarachi just watched from her bed with a small smile on her face, pretending to scroll her phone. "All this smile, is it for your ancestors?" she teased. Kiki blushed hard. "Please leave me." But by afternoon, she couldn't hold it anymore. She sat beside Amarachi, hugging a pillow tight to her chest. "Do you think Tachukwu really likes me?" Amarachi shrugged playfully. "What do you think?" Kiki's eyes lit up. "He said I looked good yesterday, that I have nice eyes. Nobody's ever said that before. Not even in secondary school." "You liked the compliments?" "Liked?" Amarachi. My head nearly exploded. I wanted to disappear, but also I wanted him to keep talking. I didn't want him to stop. Amarachi laughed. "You're catching real feelings, oh." Kiki groaned and buried her face in the pillow. "I think I like him, but I'm so shy around him." The evening plan. That night, around 6:30 p.m., Kiki suddenly stood up. "Let's go to the library again," she said excitedly. "I told Tachukwu yesterday that I might come today." Amarachi smiled knowingly. Somebody's eager." "Please nah," Kiki begged. "I just want to talk to him again." Without wasting time, Amarachi brought out the herbal tea. "Drink. You know the deal. You move, you feel better." Kiki laughed and quickly gulped it down. The walk that didn't feel long. As they walked to the library, Kiki was unusually chatty. She talked about how she used to dream of having a boyfriend in JSS 2, but gave up when everyone started calling her Fat Girl. How she had once written a love letter to a boy and he laughed at her handwriting and her weight. Amarachi listened quietly, knowing that this moment, this happiness, was precious. "I still can't believe Tachukwu likes me," Kiki said shyly. "He looks like those fine boys that only talk to slim girls." "But he talks to you," Amarachi replied. "You must be special." Kiki grinned, walking faster. "I hope he's there." By the time they arrived, Tachukwu was already standing by the gate, just like the day before, smiling as if he'd been waiting for only her. Moments that meant the world. When Kiki saw him, her stomach did a backflip. Not from the tea, but from excitement. "Hi, Kiki," he said, his voice smooth and relaxed. "I was hoping you'd come." "I told you I would," she said, voice almost whispering. "You look beautiful tonight." Kiki's breath caught. She didn't know how to respond. Her cheeks were burning, and her heart was racing. They walked together inside the library garden, just talking. Kiki kept stealing glances at his face, wondering how someone like him could be spending time with her. He asked about her dreams, what she wanted to do after school, and she opened up about wanting to become a writer, though she never believed she was good enough. Tchukwu told her, "You're more than enough, Kiki." And at that moment, she believed it. That night back in the room, when Kiki returned to the hostel, she lay on her bed, smiling up at the ceiling. "Amarachi," she whispered. Thank you." "For what?" "For making me feel like I matter, even if it's just for today." Amarachi looked over at her, heart full. "You've always mattered, Kiki. You just didn't know it yet." In the first few days of going to the library with Amarachi and meeting Tchukwu, Kiki felt serious pain in her legs. It wasn't surprising. She wasn't used to walking long distances, and the combination of the herbal tea's restlessness and the 30-minute walk left her thighs burning and ankles sore. Each night when she returned to the hostel, she would sit at the edge of her bed, massaging her legs, wincing in pain, yet smiling like someone who had found treasure. Amarachi noticed it one night. "Are you okay?" Kiki gave a tired smile. "My legs hurt, but it's worth it. Seeing Tchukwu makes everything worth it." Amarachi shook her head. "It's love that is motivating you. I've never looked forward to anything like this before," Kiki said softly. "Not even food." That statement alone meant a lot. Getting used to the movement. After a full week of walking to the library every night, Kiki noticed something. The pain wasn't as sharp anymore. She was beginning to walk faster. Her feet didn't feel like they were on fire when she got back. The constant farting that came from the herbal tea, she was now laughing at herself whenever it happened. "I fart like a truck," she said one night, giggling in the mirror as she dabbed powder on her face before the walk up. "But I'm light like a feather." It became a routine. Drink the tea, fart like crazy, walk, meet Tchukwu, smile all the way back. Even when Amarachi had school meetings or night lectures and couldn't go with her, Kiki would go alone. She would put on her slippers, tuck her body into a simple gown, and whisper to herself, "Let's go see him." Even if she didn't meet Tchukwu, she walked. Her body was now demanding it, not just the tea. The shift she didn't expect. Weeks passed and Kiki began to notice things. Her towel was looser around her waist. Her feet didn't swell up as they used to. She didn't snore like before. Amarachi even mentioned it. Her cheeks weren't as round. Even the students who used to ignore her were now greeting her when she passed. One afternoon after class, Tchukwu ran up to her, smiling. "Kiki, did you cut weight or something? You're glowing." She blushed hard, her heart pounding. "Maybe a little. You look amazing," becoming her own motivation. One night, while walking back alone from the library, Kiki paused midway and looked at the moon above her. She placed her hands on her stomach and smiled. For the first time in years, she felt in control. Not just of her body, but of her confidence, her emotions, and her life. And it all started with a little tea, a mischievous roommate, and a pretend crush that now felt real. When Kiki returned home for the semester break, the reaction from her family was nothing short of shock and amazement. Her mother, Adiz, dropped the tray of oranges she was holding the moment Kiki stepped into the living room. "Jesus, Kiki, what happened to you?" she gasped. Her father, Uche, stood up slowly, his eyes wide. "Is this our Kiki?" Gone was the girl who once waddled slowly into rooms, out of breath and withdrawn. Now, Kiki moved with lightness and confidence. Her clothes looser, her skin glowing, her face sharper. The new Kiki. Kiki had lost a significant amount of weight. It wasn't just the herbal tea or the walking, it was the change in mindset. In school, she had gained discipline, started saying no to unnecessary food, slept better, and most of all, began to believe in herself. But back home, everything started to threaten that progress. On her first day back, her mother cooked a full pot of egusi soup, pounded yam, and fried plantains. "You must eat well. You've lost too much. Look at your neck." Kiki tried to smile, but she already felt the pressure. "Mummy, I'm okay." Later that night, When she refused a second plate of rice, her father said, "You better eat all that school starvation won't follow you home." Realization. Home was her trap. After a week at home, Kiki began to notice. Her old eating habits started creeping back. Her body felt heavier, slower. Her energy was dropping. She was always indoors, lying on the couch. The tea helped reduce her appetite, yes, but at home, the temptations were louder than the tea's effect. It was like her old self was pulling her back. She stared at herself in the mirror one evening and whispered, "This house is too comfortable. It's the same comfort that made me this way before." That night, she didn't sleep. She kept thinking. Her big decision. The next morning, Kiki walked to the kitchen where both parents were having breakfast. She cleared her throat. "Mummy, Daddy, I want to move out." They both looked at her in shock. "Move out? For what?" her mum asked sharply. "Not because I'm angry," Kiki said calmly. "I love this house, but I've realized it's dangerous for me. This place is my comfort zone. And comfort has made me lazy. It has made me fat. It has made me afraid of life." Uche put down his spoon. "But we love you. We don't want you to lack." "I know," she smiled softly. "But love shouldn't kill me. I need space. I need to take care of my body. I want to finish what I started." Her mother was silent for a while, tears forming. "So, it's really that serious?" Kiki nodded. "I fought too hard to go back. I want to be healthy. I want to walk into a room and not feel like everyone is staring. I want to feel proud of myself, not tired all the time." A new chapter. They didn't agree that day. There were tears, arguments, even guilt. But 1 week later, her father quietly gave her money for a small apartment near her school. Before she left, her mother hugged her tightly. "I don't fully understand, but I'm proud of you. Please be safe." Kiki smiled through her own tears. "Thank you for letting me grow." As she packed her bag and stepped out of the house, she felt free. Not just from the weight on her body, but from the weight of old habits. She was no longer the Kiki who hid behind food. She was the new Kiki, intentional, strong, and unstoppable. When Kiki moved into her small self-contained apartment close to school, it was more than just leaving home. It was her way of taking control of her life. The house wasn't fancy, but it was hers. No one was forcing food on her. No one was watching her every move. She had found a quiet freedom that felt just right. By now, the herbal tea her roommate used to give her had finished, but surprisingly, Kiki no longer needed it. Her body had adjusted to the rhythm. Her nights had become her secret weapon. Every evening after dinner, usually a light bowl of fruits or homemade salad, she would lace up her sneakers, plug in her earphones, and take long walks. Not because anyone was watching her. Not because someone forced her. But because she wanted to. She would walk for 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes more, stopping occasionally at a fruit seller stand. Not necessarily because she needed the fruits, but because it gave her a reason to keep walking. Her body had become used to movement. Her mind started associating walking with peace and progress. She noticed her clothes no longer fit like before. Her face was less round, her arms less flabby. For the first time in years, her thighs weren't rubbing painfully against each other when she walked. Her skin began to glow, and her energy levels improved, smiled more, and wasn't afraid to speak up in group discussions. One day, as she looked at herself in the mirror after returning from one of her evening walks, she hardly recognized herself. "I'm changing," she whispered. "And I love it." She sent a picture to her roommate with a voice note that said, "Thank you for helping me start. I don't think I can ever go back." Walking at night had become her therapy, her ritual, a silent, consistent commitment to herself. Kiki was falling in love with her own journey, not for anyone's approval, not for Tachukwu, not even for her parents, but for herself. And for once, she felt proud. When school resumed after the long break, Kiki returned as a completely different version of herself. She now walked confidently from her new apartment to school, no longer the shy, insecure girl hiding behind her size. Her clothes fit differently, her skin glowed with health, and there was a new light in her eyes. the kind that only comes from deep, personal growth. On her first day back to class, all eyes were on her. People who hadn't paid attention to her before looked again, confused. Was that really Kiki? Some whispered. Others stared. But no one was more stunned than Tachukwu. He had seen her progress little by little, but the break had amplified everything. She looked stunning, not just because of the weight she had lost, but because of the confidence she now carried. She wasn't looking down or walking behind anyone anymore. She owned her presence. There was something undeniably beautiful about the way she smiled, the way she carried her bag, the way she answered questions in class. During break time, he walked up to her with his usual playful grin. "Is this really Kiki? Or did you switch with someone else during the holidays?" he teased, admiring her new glow. She blushed lightly and chuckled. "It's me, oh. Just a better version." Meanwhile, her former roommate had also come around to say hi and check on her. The moment she saw how Tachukwu couldn't take his eyes off Kiki, the way he looked at her now with admiration and something deeper, she pulled him aside later that afternoon. "You've done well," she said to him. "The plan worked. You can let her go now. Mission accomplished." But Tachukwu paused, then looked at her with sincerity. "I can't let her go. I think I'm really falling for her. For real this time." Her roommate was shocked. "What do you mean?" He smiled, almost embarrassed. "I know it started off as a plan to help her gain confidence. But somewhere along the line, I started waiting for her messages. I wanted to see her, not just at the library but everywhere. I wanted to hear her laugh. Even the way she talks when she's shy. It gets to me." That evening, he texted Kiki, "Can I see you later? Just you and me. Not the library this time." Kiki, reading the message from her small apartment, smiled so wide her cheeks hurt. She didn't know what was coming next. But she knew one thing for sure. She was no longer the girl trying to be noticed. She had become the girl worth chasing. That evening, Kiki stood in front of her small mirror, heart racing with anticipation. She had gotten Tachukwu's text hours ago, and though she'd tried to act casual about it, she couldn't hide the butterflies in her stomach. He wanted to see her, not at the library, not by chance. He wanted to spend time with her intentionally. She wore a simple top and jeans that hugged her figure modestly, her natural beauty glowing more from confidence than makeup. As she walked out of her apartment and down the familiar campus path, memories of the girl she used to be flashed through her mind. The one who avoided eye contact, who hid behind oversized clothes and shame. That girl was gone now. Tachukwu was already waiting for her near the small garden beside the faculty building. The moment he saw her, his face lit up. "You came," he said softly. "Of course," she smiled, hugging her arms lightly. "You asked." They walked together, not really with any destination in mind. They talked, laughed, and joked about school, lectures, and life. With each step, the energy between them grew warmer, stronger. He would brush her hand lightly, and she would smile, looking away. The tension was sweet, soft, the kind that made her heart thump. Eventually, they sat on a low bench under a tree, quiet for a few seconds, their faces lit by the campus street lamp nearby. Tachukwu turned to her, gently brushing a stray hair from her face. "You know," he began, voice low and sincere, "I didn't plan to like you like this, but I do. I really do." Kiki's lips parted slightly in surprise, but she didn't look away. Her heart was racing. He leaned in slowly, and just when she thought she might explode from nerves, their lips met, soft, warm, and gentle. It wasn't rushed. It was everything she hoped a first kiss would be. His hand held the side of her face, and for that brief moment, time stood still. When they pulled back, Tachukwu smiled. "Stay with me tonight," he whispered. "Let's just talk. Watch something. Lie down together. No pressure." Kiki smiled softly, her eyes calm but firm. "Not yet." Tachukwu blinked, taken aback, but nodded slowly. "I understand. I like you," she said honestly. "A lot, but I know how this goes. Sleepovers often become something else. I'm not ready to rush. Let's take our time." He smiled again, this time with admiration. That's one of the reasons I like you. You know what you want. They walked back toward her apartment, holding hands in silence. No pressure. Just two young people learning each other, learning love. Slowly, honestly, and with intention. That night was the beginning of something real for Kiki. Something she never believed she would experience. When she got back to her apartment after parting ways with Tachukwu, she sat on her bed, her heart still dancing. She held her phone, reading and rereading his last message. Thank you for making me feel something genuine tonight. I like you, for real. A soft smile spread across her face. She wasn't used to this kind of attention. Not the fake kind. Not the shallow kind. But the real, respectful kind. The kind that made her feel seen beyond her size, her past, or her insecurities. This time, she wasn't just a target for pity or a project. She was Kiki. And someone liked Kiki. The next morning, she couldn't wait to tell someone. The first person that came to mind was her old roommate, Amara, the one who had stuck with her through thick and thick, who had bought her that weird herbal tea, and who had secretly schemed with Tachukwu in the beginning. She picked up her phone and called. Amara, guess what? She said, unable to hide the excitement in her voice. Amara didn't even hesitate. Tachukwu kissed you? Kiki gasped. How did you know? I just know, Amara giggled. Tell me everything. They talked for over an hour. Kiki told her about the walk, the kiss, how he had asked her to stay the night, and how she said no, and how he respected her decision. Amara was quiet for a second, then said, I'm just so proud of you, Kiki. You've come so far. I remember when you couldn't even walk to the library without tearing up. And now you're here, in love and glowing. Kiki teared up. I never thought anyone would really love me, Amma. Not with this body, this past. But he does, Amara said gently. And it's because of the real you, not because you changed your size. It's because of your heart, your spirit. You just needed to believe it. Later that day, Amara posted an Instagram story with a throwback photo of Kiki. One from their hostel days, and another of her current glow-up. Caption, proud of this girl. From roommate to soul sister. My once fat friend found love, and I'm screaming. Fire red heart hashtag glowup, hashtag real love, hashtag Kiki wins. Kiki saw it, smiled, and shook her head, laughing through her tears. It wasn't just a win for love. It was a win for healing, confidence, and self-worth. From that night on, Tachukwu and Kiki grew closer. He would walk to her apartment after class, help her prep simple healthy meals, and join her on her evening fruit walks. They weren't rushing anything, they were taking their time. And it was beautiful. The shy, ashamed girl who once cried because of how people saw her had now found someone who looked at her and smiled. Not in mockery, but in admiration. To be continued. Kindly like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories.